The term FNAF-Like came after the release of Five Nights at Freddys with the eventual release of many fan games. The term refers to a game that plays or looks similar to Five Nights at Freddys. Now, in many cases, this term is used correctly, as seen in One Night at Flumpty's or Five Nights at Candy's, just to name a few. However, this term can also be used incorrectly, and today that's what I'll be talking about. Sup guys, Jacob Gamer Vlogs here, and you might notice the background. That's right, I got a green screen. Let's go! Yeah, so I'm using the FNAF 1 office for today's video. So anyway, people seem to use the term FNAF-like wrong a lot, or at least mainstream websites do. I looked at a few and I was kind of shocked by the results. People seem to think that scary bad things chasing after you, or if it's an animatronic, that has something to do with Five Nights at Freddy's. Well, newsflash, no, it doesn't. Other games cannot be related to Five Nights at Freddy's even though they have the similar ideas, which technically does not make it FNAF-like. Obviously, as stated before, games such as Five Nights at Candy's, One Night at Flumpty's, Pop Goes, or many other fan games, you would call them FNAF-like because they play like Five Nights at Freddy's, they look like Five Nights at Freddy's, but with a twist. So yes, I would call that FNAF-like. Also, before we continue, please consider liking and subscribing so that way you can close the doors and keep no ad revenue from coming into the room. So anyway, for this video, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be looking on this website and seeing what games are quote-unquote FNAF-like. Which, I mean, most of them are not going to be, but let's just see what they think the definition of FNAF-like is. Alright, our first game is... So the first game is Outlast, and honestly, I see no resemblance. They play completely different. Like, for example, Outlast is free roam, while in Five Nights at Freddy's you're stuck in a single room. It has nothing to do with this series, nothing to do with animatronics, so I don't know why you would call it FNAF-like. The only thing I can see similar is that it's a horror game and there are jump scares. But Five Nights at Freddy's wasn't the game to invent that, so no, you would not call this FNAF-like. Also, Outlast came out first. So wouldn't you call Five Nights at Freddy's Outlast-like if you were calling Outlast Five Nights at Freddy's-like? Exactly, you wouldn't. Moving on to the next game. Alright kids, it's time to talk about everyone's favorite character from those YouTube Kids videos. That's right, it's Granny. No, but seriously, actually look at these videos.
I just got another group of people today.
Anyway, actually on subject again. Like before, with Outlast, Granny is not similar to Five Nights at Freddy's at all. There are two completely different game styles. Like I already said with Outlast, Granny is somewhat free roam, while Five Nights at Freddy's is also just sitting in a room. I honestly don't get the logic these companies have. Like, do they think that something chasing you and then a jump scare equals Five Nights at Freddy's like? So pretty much this is what they think a Five Nights at Freddy's like game is. Or you sitting in a dark room. Is there someone after you? Well then, that's a FNAF-like game. And obviously, let me just say this. Obviously, I don't have a problem with the term FNAF-like. I mean, no, I don't think anyone does. I don't think anyone has a problem with a term unless it is used incorrectly. And these games are used incorrectly as FNAF-like. Obviously, most people would not call it FNAF-like. Maybe younger kids or mainstream websites. I was just wanting to point this out. Anyway, time to move on to the next game. Okay, I'm not even joking about this. I went on this one website and it said one of the FNAF-like games was Five Nights at Freddy's Security Breach. I can't tell if they're actually serious or if they're high. If they're high, boy, I sure want what they're on. Just kidding, of course. I don't even have to explain this, obviously. I'm not going to cover this. Moving on to the next game. Honestly, out of all the games I'm probably covering today, I think this one confuses me the most. For starters, there's not technically jump scares, so you can't make that comparison to Five Nights at Freddy's. For the other ones, you could maybe slightly compare them to Five Nights at Freddy's Security Breach, but this one's a platformer, so you can't even compare it to that. Like, Five Nights at Freddy's was open, so maybe you could compare it to Outlast, and maybe you could compare it to Granny. But FNAF has never really had a platformer before, besides maybe the mini games, so no, you would not even call those FNAF-like. Be truly honest with me, looking at the gameplay, just tell me if you see any resemblance of Five Nights at Freddy's. Not every game is inspired by Five Nights at Freddy's, so for all the 5-year-olds on their iPad commenting, but every horror game is made by Scott Cawthon and Five Nights at Freddy's. No, it's not, so stop comparing things to Five Nights at Freddy's. At least nothing personal to Scott Cawthon. I love his Five Nights at Freddy's games. I've been a big fan of the series. It's just, I just don't like when people compare every single horror game to Five Nights at Freddy's. Anyway, moving on to the next game. Alright, you know the drill. Time to react to a YouTube Kids video.
Hey, we're your neighbors, and guess what? We got locked out of our house. We were just wondering, could we come inside and stay a little bit until this storm passes? It's gonna get a lot worse, and cool. We're kind of cold out here. Sean here didn't bring a coat.
Anyway, like always, this game has nothing to do with Five Nights at Freddy's. You are not in a single room. There are no animatronics. You could not even compare this to Five Nights at Freddy's, as for most of the games. Like in Five Nights at Freddy's, you're in an office. Hello neighbor, you're exploring a house to go into the neighbor's basement. Now, does that sound similar to you at all? If you say yes, click off this video. If you say no, well then, I don't really need to explain myself. I think you already understand why this is not FNAF-like. I mean, Hello Neighbor also has you like solving puzzles to get items, which Five Nights at Freddy's doesn't have. Even in Security Breach, you don't really solve puzzles. Besides maybe the Mazer size one, but that's the only one in the game. Like always, this game has nothing to do with Five Nights at Freddy's. Anyway, moving on to the final game I'll be talking about today. Alright, the final game I'll be talking about is Subnautica, and honestly, looking back at these, I think it might be tied with Limbo for not having anything to do with Five Nights at Freddy's. For starters, I mean, it's underwater, so it's definitely unique from all of them, which definitely makes it unique from Five Nights at Freddy's. It has nothing to do with it, because the last time I checked, I don't remember a Five Nights at Freddy's game being underwater. Anyway, it also technically isn't a horror game. Well, that depends on your definition of horror. Some people might be scared of what's in the ocean, so if you are scared of what's in the ocean, then yeah, you would call this a horror game, but for those who aren't as terrified, not as much, you would not call this a horror game. So already that separates it from any comparisons to Five Nights at Freddy's. It's not a horror game, there's no jump scares, and it's underwater, so yeah. You also have your own like base that you have to manage, so that also changes it a lot up from Five Nights at Freddy's. So like all the other games, this is not Five Nights at Freddy's like. Anyway, well guys, I guess that's it. That's all the games I have to cover today. I'm not covering all the games because that would take forever. Overall, I think the term Five Nights at Freddy's like is misused a lot. Most people do not use it right. I'm not saying everyone doesn't. Like obviously, like I've already said before, games such as Five Nights at Candy's, Pop Goes, etc., the term Five Nights at Freddy's like are used correctly because they are similar to Five Nights at Freddy's, because they take things from Five Nights at Freddy's and make it into their own game. That or just completely copy it, as seen in many other fan games that aren't really that creative. Anyway, I just wanted to talk about this. It doesn't really bother me, but I just wanted to address that most people do not use the term correctly. Obviously, as stated before, this is nothing against Scott Cawthon. I love the games. I've been a fan since the very first game, so nothing against him or this franchise. Anyway, the next time some people use the term, just make sure you use it correctly. That's all I want people to learn from this video. Anyway, guys, that'll be it from me, guys. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Peace.
Hey guys, Sonic here. don't forget to subscribe to Jacob Gamer Vlogs for awesome content. All right, I'm gonna go grab a quick chili dog. See ya!